Well, we'll see how Obey Alliance adapt as we head into picks and bans for game number 2. The world defending champions losing the first game of this set. You know, they started off the first week pretty hot, beating out Elevate. Next week, not too hot, losing to, or splitting rather, to IMOM. And this third week already losing their first game.
We saw Kronos banned out last game as well, and it looks like that's going to be the focus one more time as he's the first ban. Scotty as well. Don't want to see those characters who can, in particular, go into the duo lane, come into this game and kind of run through the same way we saw Fatal Ghost do it.
Just a lot of control between the permafrost, between the Odin cage.
It's not permafrost. Bless.
Yeah. Bless up. And that's why Obey Alliance, if they were first pick, they would probably leave Scotty open for themselves. And Zachsy's god pool is just very diverse, so I'm not really too worried whatever hunter he picks.
Terra selected her for Strictly Business, a little bit of a flex pick. We've seen Terra go into the solo lane and into the support role, so it could be either one.
It's very difficult to lock down the idea behind that first pick Terra. A lot of teams don't like to put Terra necessarily in the solo lane because you're not going to see her for a while.
Right.
But that's not necessarily a bad thing considering you have that global ultimate.
Chulainn and Xing are the picks for Obey, so it looks like they were happy with the play that Xing they've got there for him. But Strictly Business pick up Thor, saying Myflin will show you how it's done. I
mean, that's a lot of global pressure already off the board between the Thor and Terra. That's good synergy to be able to ping pong between either side lane.
Good synergy for them, and good Sobek picked up as well. That's going to provide a lot of control to pair well with the Terra and a lot of aggression. So either one of those could very well be the solo lane pick for him, but that leaves up Hell, who I believe we saw banned in the last game.
It's going to be interesting to see if this Hell can make anything work because there's so much control from SB. Thor can lock you down, Terra and Sobek can just toss you around wherever they please. And if I'm Obey Alliance, I'm looking for more tools and assets on how to keep this Hell alive.
And Obey Alliance recognize that the mid laner for Strictly Business still hasn't been picked up yet. They target out Thoth and Yanis, two big-time mid laners who can have a big impact. Still something like Scylla and Sol, though, available, so there are some options.
I like what Fatal Ghost is doing here, or at least SB, by banning away this Ho Yi. Fatal Ghost played it last game. He doesn't necessarily care to play it again. They probably have some other ideas for him.
Medusa picked up for Obey, very safe AD carry that they have that can help bring a little bit of AoE, which they may be lacking, or at least ranged AoE, as Hell does have to be very close to do her damage. Vulcan picked up, as well as Jing for Strictly Business.
Not a lot of control yet again here because of the double knockups between the Meatball, between the Persistent Gust. SB has just controlled all across the board, and Obey's last pick here needs to be, I thought it was going to actually be maybe a Xing support, but it's going to be the Ganesha for themselves. A very aggressive composition, and I'm a little bit worried here for Delta Marine playing this Hell.
Yeah, likely what we're going to be seeing is going to be Chulainn, I guess, in the jungle with them, and Xing being the solo?
I would assume that would be the best idea, or at least the most standard idea, to have that kind of rotations occurring, because a Guardian in the solo lane is not the easiest to make work in the early game rotation, so you might as well leave him there, let him farm, get to level 12, then make their rotations with your second relic, and that's exactly what Obey is doing, keeping the warrior in the jungle where the biggest impact will come from.
Myflin saying that he's going to pick someone a little tankier, not going to get blown up this game, but Kaeydan going to show him how Thor is played, piloting Thor in that solo lane for Strictly Business.
It's actually Zachsy playing Hell. I thought it was Delta Marine going to play Hell, but no, they swapped it up. Delta Marine is going to be playing the Medusa, and the cameraman's just zooming in like, whoa.
We've got a Hell ADC here. Okay, I mean, this works. They still have all the physical damage from their ADC they could want with Medusa. Maybe not as strong late game as someone like a Hu Yi or like the Jing, but certainly still provides that.
As long as there's only 1v1s in the duo lane, Zachsy will control that lane so well because he'll be able to prevent the clear from Fatal Ghost. The best thing about playing Jing in that duo lane is that after you clear the wave, you just back, get your power spike on him online, get back to the lane. But if you can never clear the wave until he gets to your tower, you're going to have to wait for that next wave because it still takes a little bit of time to get back to your base from pressing B.
Zachsy going to have a good bit of pressure, also taking the red buff to rotate in. And we do see both the supports here, Matt, Koiz, and pbnjellly. Look at the aggressive positioning that Hell has to take to go up and clear the wave. And they cleared quick, and they're already back out into the jungle to try and get started on those oracles.
Able to make the rotation before their opposition allows this little plate to happen. Wrapping around behind potentially is SB, thinking about ways to get in, but Zachsy hitting level 3 here. Could look for a turnaround play.
Getting a whole bunch of burst damage out is Fatal Ghost. Zachsy very low. The sprint has to be forced out. That's the only way for them to disengage. So that's a cooldown that they won't have available. And the beads came out from Zachsy as well.
Very important. We were talking about the amount of control SB had, and these are only 2 out of the 5 that's able to lock you down. Imagine these later stage team fights once the rotation from Kaeydan and Jarman take into effect.
Now, I know we saw Kaeydan take that Thor earlier on in the draft, but the more and more I looked at it, the more I feel like, man, if that had been an Oelix in that position, this would have been a straight-up nightmare after we saw her earlier.
You're absolutely right. Between the Sobek, Vulcan, Xing, those 3 knockups can set it up, but it's all about the global pressure between the Terra and the Thor. We could see some early rotations to one of those side lanes.
And we saw him play it very well earlier. Hell does have a lot of movement. She can cleanse as well, so she has something to make up for the fact that she can't actually like jump or leap or dash, but she's someone that could be a target for Kaeydan on this Thor.
And she should be the target. That's the primary target for any jungler, Thor or otherwise. The late game potential for a Hell is just astronomical. Not only does she put out the damage from a safe distance with her first ability, she can just consistently heal her team, extending those team fights for a long time.
And one of the only people on this team with any kind of anti-heal, it's not huge or anything, is the Sobek. Do you think there's anything to putting the Hell as far away from that solo back as they could?
Absolutely here, especially considering the pluck is a devastating tool to be able to lock it down this Hell. Zachsy playing this Hell leads me to believe that this is something that oBe Alliance have probably been practicing in the shadows and now bringing it into the light. So far, hasn't made a statement, but honestly, Hell, it's all about the mid to late game with her.
And sometimes you play something and you feel like you've given something up early. What oBe Alliance have done here, though, is they've picked something, and this makes their picks band stronger going forward. If they pick Hell, you're not really sure where that Hell's going to be going, because Zachsy is showing that he can pilot it here. So this is something that gives oBe even a little more flex down the line as well.
And very importantly was the timing of the Hell pick was done after the Odin ban was already there, so not able to really have to worry about some of this anti-healing.
Ultimate coming out from Kaeydan, but it's returned from Delta Marine. It's Myflin, though, who's the one that's in trouble, but this time on the tankier Chulainn, able to just walk away. Speed buff, though, looks like it was stolen away.
That's right. oBe Alliance not giving Kaeydan the opportunity to be more mobile than he needs to, but honestly, if I'm Thor, you don't really need the speed buff anyway. You're not a Mercury that gets more damage from more movement speed.
I'm sure Myflin would argue with this. Junglers love their speed buff, but you're right. It's not as critical on someone like Thor, who already has a lot of mobility, as it is on maybe some of these other junglers. So a small win for oBe Alliance, as again, we're still sitting at 0-0, and they've got maybe about a 400 or so gold lead.
You know, we saw a lot of action in that second game, but the first one and the second one is slowed down a little bit here, and I like this idea for oBe Alliance to slow things down. They need to recollect themselves here, because even though that was a 40-minute game, in the first one, it was very clean 40-minute clean-up game from SB.
It felt like it was in control of SB almost the whole game. I agree with you. So now oBe Alliance taking a moment to try and regroup, going to what I think is probably like a pocket strat for them, or something that they feel comfortable in having had practiced. So we just recently saw Delta Marine back in mid lane, and that's going to leave Koiz to try and take these oracles.
I think he just wants to pull it while Fatal Ghost is right around the corner, and Zachsy's able to clear the dual lane first, forcing Fatal Ghost to go tend to it, get that experience, allowing Koiz to try to steal this. Looks like it's split, yeah.
Looks like it was split, so successful defense for Strictly Business without having to give up any kind of oracle vision or anything to their opponents. Now they're just going to return back to parity, but Kaeydan's hanging around this middle lane where Medusa's hanging out.
And trying to force something going down there. Kaeydan taking a little bit of poke for his trouble there. The beautiful thing about the Medusa acid spray is just the triangular effect that it bounces off of the melee minions. You really have to step so far to the side.
It sure seems wide, doesn't it?
Just to avoid it, which could also be other abilities thrown in that direction anyway.
So it gives them, again, that's some of the space control. That's why Medusa, I believe, does so well here. Not just that her ultimate is an AoE ultimate for an AD carry, but as you said, the acid spray can move through the team fight and hit multiple members. So that's a big pick that makes the Hell in the AD carry role work, is that Medusa can sort of cover a few of those weaknesses.
That's true, and Delta Marine trying to get off any poke, feeling a little bit of confidence here with Jelly right beside him. Myflin going to cross from right to left, maybe looking for a gank here onto Fatal Ghost, trying to get Zachsy ahead, but that's not going to be the case as the mid wave has regrouped, and it's always going to be that 3-on-3.
It's fortunate that he didn't, though, because Jing or Fatal Ghost, rather, has a lot of wards on that side, so he certainly wasn't able to see that rotation coming. It does look like, though, Myflin's gone in. It's Delta Marine, though, that took a good bit of poke from Strictly Business, and he'll have to back off.
No relics being used quite yet in that little skirmish there. Portal Demon not responding for another 3 minutes, but the speed buff and the elementals certainly will. Delta Marine trying to steal that one away, but it looks like it actually was the little red particle effect after that elemental going the way of Obey.
Now, you said before how strong Hell is in the late game. Does that put the pressure on Strictly Business and make something happen early?
Absolutely. You don't want to allow this Hell just to farm willy-nilly, try to get those levels and the items, and depending on the route that Zachsy goes, he could easily not even have to go for a damage build. He can go for a defensive build, which would make it so much more difficult to lock him down, get off even more heals throughout a team fight. Even if it's not a very strong heal, the more quantity of heals that you get will be better.
And this Obey Alliance roster is already pretty hard to kill. I mean, they've got Chulainn, Xing, Ganesha, Hell, and Medusa. If you pair with that the healing that Hell brings late game, it's going to be real tough for Strictly Business to get any kills off in these fights.
Normally, you think quality over quantity, but in Hell's case, that's not always going to be that way, simply because the scaling on her healing is just not that high, so you can get away. You should rather go tanky just to be able to spam that heal, maybe get some MP5 along the way.
Kaeydan up into the air and lands down on, and doesn't actually hit Zachsy with the ultimate, but at least get some poke out with the wall. But Hell's one of those characters that poke just isn't going to cut it on, as she'll be able to sustain it right up.
Just long hair don't care, says Zachsy. He heals back into his own tier 1 tower. Golfier, though, will be leashed and started rather by SB. Nobody really here. Jelly's going to peek his head around the corner. Dharmic Pillar's being used. Vulcan ultimate will be secured by SB.
Zachsy also able to come in and get a kill onto Koiz. So Strictly Business get the Gold Fury, but at least Obey Alliance do pull one kill out. But support for Gold Fury is usually worth.
Oh, absolutely. Any day would I take that trade, especially pre-9-minute mark where the respawn timer is so short anyway. There's going to be very minimal farm that Koiz loses off of that one death.
Strictly Business now has evened things back up after securing the Gold Fury, so Obey Alliance likely had a bit of a lead that they'd established, but the Tier 1 is under a lot of pressure. The Ohm, though, stopping the pluck attempt from Ryan Jarman. pbnjellly looking good on the Ganesha.
Very difficult to really find that right angle against the Ganesha. The penetration will not be available. Sometimes it might be a good idea for Ryan Jarman to engage with just lurking in the water. You can't that one away if you do it before, and then once you get a little bit closer, that slowing minefield to keep everybody relatively glued next to you to allow the rest of your teammates to catch up.
I talked about it a little bit already, but this Tier 1 tower in mid is really low. If there's an engagement, it's not going to really be somewhere that you can retreat for Strictly Business, as it'll only take a few shots to take it down. In fact, it looks like Myflin wants to press the issue and go ahead and take it down right now, but up into the air is Kaeydan with the Thor. Koiz is very low, and Kaeydan lands on top to help. Myflin is very, very low. The ultimate comes out from Delta Marine, that stuns 2 members to help slow down the aggression.
Acid spray almost taking out Koiz after the Petrify, trying to avenge their fallen brother. Myflin has sacrificed himself, but not until the Tier 1 mid tower went down, and that could have been the idea behind putting Medusa in the mid lane because of the pressure that not only she can provide to the wave with acid spray, but also the first steroid ability, that triple shot, melts towers.
Medusa's one of the better team fighting AD carries. We've been talking about how AD carries aren't always going to be a part of the game early. Well, putting Medusa in the mid lane means she gets to be a part of these engagements early, and we're seeing the presence she can have.
I love the positioning of Koiz there. That little ward battle is just so small, but it makes a big impact. They're worth 120 gold, and on top of that, you get 50 gold once you destroy the ward. And the way he did that was he just absorbed the Medusa hits, and he was still in range to clear the other wards.
well, then mid tower falling for strictly business is a big deal. That means that if there's fights around the portal demon around that Gold Fury, they'll have further to try and retreat to get back to the safety of their tower. So Obey Alliance does have a little bit of a power play there in the middle lane. But again, Gold Fury will be down for another 2 minutes or so that won't be the focal point for a little while.
Level 12 on both of these hunters, quote unquote, as I say that about Zachsy's Hell. Not going for a defensive option quite yet. Going for the Book of Thoth. Like the idea. You want the mana to be able to spam. There are other options for mana, of course. You could go for the Breastplate of Valor to get that mana, get the cooldown, get the MP5, but you will be lacking the damage in the Dark Stance.
Those Oracles split, and I'm glad you brought up that Book of Thoth because it's showing that they didn't just put this Hell over there in that duo lane just all willy-nilly. He is building Hell like she's going to be isolated in the duo lane, not having to worry about very much pressure. The Book of Thoth is something he can build to get that healing online and also have time to farm up.
But recognizing this, Koiz is around the corner trying to not allow Zachsy any freedom, at least, to clear it into safety. Under his own tier 1 tower, though, forcing the rotation out of Jelly now as they're going to clear the duo lane. It's not something to worry about if you're Zachsy with any pressure from Koiz, especially if you're already in light stance. You can drop the cleanse on yourself as the walls are collapsing like we saw earlier on, and you'll always run into safety.
Now, Delta Marine, because he's piloting this Medusa, has chosen to go with that Transcendence. He's getting, a few stacks online, but it does mean we're not going to see the same sort of AD carry build we saw before with the lifesteal that makes it easier to pull those objectives and try and catch the other team sleeping. So it is something that you might be giving up a little bit with this comp.
So Medusa is one of these hybrid hunters where she's more ability based in the early to mid game, but then heavily focused towards the in-hands in the late, simply because of that first ability. If you can make the switch from your physical power items to crit, that's all nice, but it's such a late idea that I'm not really favoring this for Obey Alliance. I would rather just already build into the late game anyway.
Myflin taking a little bit of poke from Kaeydan there in the mid lane, who hasn't had too big of an impact. We were saying that we were looking to Kaeydan in particular for strictly business to help drive the pace of the game, but Zachsy hasn't really been under that much pressure. In fact, he has the only kill credit for Obey Alliance so far in the game. Fatal Ghost could be under a little pressure, but he's okay getting knocked up, just able to dash on out.
And the way Kaeydan has been dictating this game, it doesn't really matter there. He's been getting off the damage.
Kaeydan actually drops in on the back line. pbnjellly under a lot of pressure and had to back off, but nothing too much more coming from him.
He's making the plays happen. He's not necessarily getting the kills, but he's forcing the relics every now and then, forced out a sprint from Jelly, trying to get his mid and hunter out of the danger there. And that's something that Kaeydan can do very consistently.
pbnjellly committing the Dharmic Pillars of the Oboronic, actually using the Ohm to help lock him down in place, and they get not just the Terra ultimate, but the Aegis from Oboronic as well, and the ultimate coming out. So Oboronic gonna have a lot of long cooldowns to sit on and wait.
Jelly taking a little bit of damage there, stun into place, but a nice cleanse from Zachsy. He's gonna prevent the pluck or the stun there, finding one pull onto Koiz. Ryan Jarman forced to disengage with that ultimate. It's just gonna be a straight up rush.
Ryan Jarman comes to the back and at least forces a couple cooldowns out with that Whirlwind, Rage, and Steel. Not able to get too much more out of it, but I think the reason that we're seeing all this commitment over here, like the ultimate coming out from Kaeydan, is that the Gold Fury did just respawn about a minute and a half ago or so. So that's one more objective to try and fight over, as Obey now are the ones with vision. They
got the vision for a minute, but honestly, even at this point, I think SB can just straight up start the Gold Fury despite the vision if Obey is out of position. Now the question is, if SB will recognize Obey being out of position is the second question, but regardless, this is the point in time where these team fights will start including both of these solo laners, where Ryan Jarman and Dwurst trying to make the bigger impact.
Koiz rotating over again to try and help catch out Zachsy, but he's had that cleanse at his feet ready to go all game. Strictly business could be the ones to start with the Gold Fury, but I feel like it's got to be a clean burn. If they try and go into a prolonged poke war up against Obey Alliance, I don't think they'd be able to win that one.
Especially with that Hell onto Zachsy. It's a very impressive thing to go from a general physical hunter, magical hunter, just to a straight up Hell. It's a different play style. It's not your typical 2 to 3 shot hyper late game carry that you're normally used to seeing playing. And there's a lot of respect for Zachsy to be able to try to make this switch, whether or not it works.
Dwurst is real deep in the jungle of Strictly Business, but he's just backing. He's been doing a lot of proxy farming this game to try and force Jarman to stick around that solo lane and keep his tower protected and not let him rotate. Gold3, though, just getting poked out a little bit by Strictly Business, and they'll back off.
So far, so good for both of these teams. No one really giving up too many objectives. One Gold Fury going the way of SB. Obey responding with a tier 1 mid tower earlier on in the game. Both teams, though, a little hesitant to force this next objective. As these levels are getting higher and higher, these respawn timers will follow suit.
It's because these teams are dead even, totally. I mean, there's the gold lead is like maybe 100, 200, and it's varying as they're completing out their farm. 1-to-1 are the kills, and we're 16 minutes in here, so we're definitely into the mid game where the laning phase is broken down a little bit, and we're starting to see some rotations from our solo laners, and Zachsy and Fatal Ghost be a little more part of the fight. But the sprint does come out from Obey Alliance, as well as the Dharmic Pillars. pbnjellly does get the knock-up on the Oboronic, and Delta Marine's ready to follow up with the damage. Aegis comes out, but it's Myflin who's the one that's closed. Ultimate on top of himself, and the shell from Koiz is enough to keep him alive. Oboronic gets Myflin.
Look at the control coming out of SB. No way were they going to find Oboronic Def in the backline, but still trying to do the damage as Kaeydan, as he comes landing from that ultimate, the first pick onto Myflin. We were talking about all the control that SB had, and that was only a Terra in the backline with some Vulcan meatballs here and there.
And so patient was Oboronic with those cooldowns. They get the stun on the 2 members. pbnjellly at half health. They're going to have to try and back up, but wait a minute, we forgot there's a hell.
There is indeed a hell, and Obey Alliance can still fight no matter how much damage they take as long as Zachsy is alive. But despite that early aggression from Obey Alliance with a sprint, the idea was there. There was no tier 1 tower.
And that's what they went for early with that pressure to try and set it up. As Jarman takes a good bit of poke, he does put out the horrific emblem to slow down Zachsy and pbnjellly, whose Aegis just came out. Did Zachsy's over the top when Fatal Ghost, and that sets up Jarman to get the kill. And the pluck of the beads too late from Delta Marine, so those aren't going to be on cooldown, and he's out of position. Oboronic is here to clean it up, but Fatal Ghost gets the credit.
Just 2 for nothing over the top is Oboronic, not going to connect, trying to save his jungler there. Was kind of hoping that Kaeydan would bait those 2 teammates under that Vulcan ultimate. SB not going to have that ability for this Gold Fury, but as Dwurst comes around the corner, he doesn't have that much mana, maybe for 1 ability.
No ultimate available for Oboronic, though, to try and help confirm it. The Gold Fury does go down, and Dwurst is in a lot of danger. I got to imagine so, because the Gold is still very even. Dwurst gets taken.
Obey just stole the Gold Fury. Dwurst just walked up there, because SB, they got the first one, and then Obey got the tier 1 mid tower. Yeah, Dwurst just stealing that with the furious roar out of in front of their face.
There wasn't any confirm coming out from Strictly Business. Oboronics ultimate, their best way to confirm it, wasn't available, and they didn't have anyone on zoning duty either, so he just kind of walks up and takes it.
Also, the hog was used from Dwurst. I didn't check if Jarman's hog was on cooldown or not, but it was a furious roar with the hog taking that one for Obey Alliance. Despite losing that team fight slightly, they're keeping things nice and tight.
A little bit of a gold lead in their favor, but that's so important that they've been able to stop the aggression of Strictly Business after they do take that team fight pretty handily. Overall, able to pick up 3 kills to just the 1 for Obey Alliance. So now Strictly Business gonna have to be a little bit more mindful of the way they secure those objectives when they have their next fight.
The one good thing for SB, as at the result of that little skirmish, or long little skirmish rather, was the ability to burst Zachsy there. He is immortal. He can die. That one little engagement there, it took a little bit of time there, but as long as he's out of position, they can certainly kill him.
pbnjellly commits the Dharmic Pillars, and Kaeydan takes a good bit of poke, but uses that hammer to teleport away. Koiz, the one that's a little bit isolated, but thanks to, once again, though, Oboronic committing the ultimate on the pbnjellly, who actually comes down pretty low, but there's just no follow-up.
Unfortunately, their disengage occurred a little bit too soon for Oboronic's liking. He's a little too trigger-happy here with that Vulcan ultimate. I like to see him slow down the pace there, just wait for the proper setup.
Because he doesn't have it available at times when he ends up needing it. Delta Marine, though, does end up very low, and he'll likely have to back, and that's why we see them rotating over for the Portal Demon are strictly business. Zachsy is here as well as pbnjellly, and Dwurst is lurking around as well, but Ryan Jarman trying to keep them away from the engagement. Ryan Jarman underneath Zachsy as the Portal Demon still continues to drop.
Ryan Jarman zoning away Zachsy from this team fight, chunking himself to about half or so. Kaeydan gonna think about going into the sky here, landing in the back onto Jelly there. The disengage is occurring from Obey Alliance. Portal Demon still being flirted with here. The reset is occurring.
Dwurst are able to throw two members back into the ultimate from Delta Marine, and Myflin ends up getting credit for that one. Strong setup out of the solo laner on the Xing. Ryan Jarman now the one who's very low, and the Jarman pillars come out to help secure that kill. Myflin with an unofficial double kill in that fight, and that goes heavily in favor of Obey.
Fatal Ghost isn't done yet, trying to get a return kill. The crits are coming soon. The stun is good. Sets up Fatal Ghost for the return kill onto Myflin, not having that jungle presence. Dwurst blinking into oBoronic, trying to find the solo kill there. Jumps once, looking for the second jump there. The turret is actually doing a lot of damage with Fatal Ghost. It's gonna be a 2 for 2 at the end of the day.
Dwurst committing too hard onto that kill for oBoronic, able to just kite around inside that turret, and Fatal Ghost there as well, raining in the crits, helping save him. Also, Fatal Ghost, a big part of why we saw Myflin go down. Those crits were hitting him hard after the setup from Kaeydan.
Sometimes you can calculate just how much damage you're gonna do and calculate a kill. However, you don't always calculate when you're going to get interrupted. That double jump there certainly would have found the kill onto oBoronic, but the meatball preventing the second one from ever occurring. There was just no possible confirm for Dwurst. Really ambitious for the kill. Probably should have peeled it back, looking at it in hindsight for that Portal Demon.
And now the Portal Demon still stands. No one able to secure it. I believe overall it was a 2 for 2. So able to keep it even as far as the kills were concerned, at least. The Portal Demon still standing. That's got to be a win for Obey, as it was strictly business who initially started it up.
A little bit of a win, honestly, but it could have been so much cleaner there. Jelly going to get stunned out, poked a little bit. Koiz going to actually keep Jelly rooted into place for the moment, but it was only those two members from SB because the rest of them was just securing the Portal Demon.
Strictly business are able to pull away the Portal Demon, so now it's a win for strictly business. But we got to see in that last fight, Tolly, what the plan is here from Obey Alliance. That whirlwind of Rage and Steel into the ultimate from Delta Marine. That's not too dissimilar from throwing them back into a Scylla ult or another big mage. Delta Marine was ready with the follow-up. It just wasn't quite enough damage yet.
It's just very easy to get in position to do so, especially when all of SB is grouped up around the objective. You have the blink on Dwurst. The AoE ultimate from Delta Marine is not the largest, but the way the pull mechanic works from Dwurst basically makes it so small that, or the surface area of the opponents, that you don't even have to necessarily aim at your opponents. You're aiming at Dwurst because he's going to throw them to you.
Myflin taking a good bit of poke in the mid lane, but luckily Zachsy is on his team. You see him running towards that Hal and gets healed up nicely, so he'll be okay for this next engagement around the Gold Fury, which is back here on the map. Strictly Business will be looking to actually confirm it this time and not let it get taken away by a lone Xing.
24 almost reads the clock. SB trying to make something happen in mid. Stunning out Jelly twice, double tap on the mark. Zachsy isn't there to finally heal onto Jelly. Around the corner is Ryan Jarman. Not going to look for the pluck quite yet, but he could look for a flank if SB are flirting with his Gold Fury.
And this is a chance for him to be a part of the fight while Dwurst is still not yet here. The Gold Fury is getting very, very low, and pbnjellly and Zachsy are enough to deter Strictly Business. Up into the air, though, does go Kaeydan. The ultimate comes out from oBoronic as well, which lands only on the pbnjellly. Delta Marine able to use his ult to force them to back off, but pbnjellly is the one who's isolated. Crits coming out from Fatal Ghost, and he will get the credit. Myflin goes in for the knockup, but he's in trouble too.
Fatal Ghost jumping away with that ultimate. Ryan Jarman finding the pluck onto Delta Marine, but the wall keeping him in place, not able to disengage the way he would have wanted. Myflin not really making his presence felt, roaring across the rest of SB, just not enough damage. Fatal Ghost that was forced into use that Aegis against Dwurst. Ryan Jarman was considering that pluck, but the rest of his teammates are rather low.
5v4 here in favor of Strictly Business, and they're going to try and get the Gold Fury. Myflin goes back in and gets locked down. Lots of damage comes in, but he does manage to squeak his way out, but Kaeydan ends up getting the credit. Dwurst, though, is here on the back line, jumping in as Fatal Ghost, trying to put out damage. He knows he's swinging hard right now. That Poison Star going to help.
It's going to be doing a lot of damage, even to a tanky Xing Tian that's sitting at level 17, still flirting with more Gold Fury attempts. SB just going to secure these Oracle Visions as Kaeydan had to go back to the fountain to get more health, more mana, and we're respecting some of the respawn timers for the moment. But now with this 5-on-4, it's Koiz in the back, getting the root onto Zachsy, forcing the early cleanse while the rest of his team are still looking for someone else.
And we talked a little bit already about how tanky Obey Alliance is. It's coming up big. Strictly Business can't get these picks soon enough or clean enough to drop DPS on the Gold Fury, get the pick, and come back. They're having to commit too much to these engagements, and that's why the Gold Fury still stands, and only like one or so kills go their way.
The problem for SB here is that if they continue to leash this Gold Fury for so long, they're going to be taking too much damage from that objective, and they're not on the same boat that Obey are, where they're relying on Zachsy's sustain to be able to, you know, constantly juggle the aggro of this Gold Fury. So SB, if they're going to disengage and commit, they're going to need to confirm some kills, because Zachsy basically got away with murder there. He should have been locked down before he even got a chance to wrap around the red buff. A Hell that's out of position that close to the Gold Fury needs to get taken out.
And Zachsy even has that Lotus Crown, so even though they're tanky gods, they're made even more tanky by those heals that she puts out. Gold Fury, though, is very low. pbnjellly is here, and the Blink-In comes out for Dwurst. He uses the Whirlwind of Rage and Steel to halt the DPS, and oBoronic is able to actually get credit for it, so Strictly Business do keep it, and now the Sprint comes out. They want to try and get more.
Myflin knocking up two. Fatal Ghost caught between a rock and a hard place as he's going to be the first victim. In the backline, though, Kaeydan landing on Zachsy. No heal for you, says Jarman.
Jarman was there to help clean up that very important kill, but now there's 3 members surrounding the Crocodile who has to try and escape. Kaeydan is here to try and help out, but things just don't look good for Jarman. The Ohm, though, was big to cut down the DPS, and pbnjellly gets taken out. Delta Marine hits Jarman with that ult, but not much comes from it.
Not quite yet. Delta Marine dashing away after using those bees. He's going to escape for the moment. Fatal Ghost fell earlier on, but not until 2 more were avenged. As Obey Alliance, they lose the Gold Fury and they lose the fight.
Finally, Strictly Business commit to the Gold Fury and they're able to take down the objective. They also clean up 2 kills and are now sitting up 3,000 gold over Obey Alliance, finally having a lead, but 27 minutes in, it's not as if 3,000 is all that huge.
No, not at all here, especially considering, like you mentioned, very late in the game. Cameraman pointing out the second upgrade here. Could be a Occurrence Pendant, could be the Rod of Tahuti. If you're going for utility, it needs to be the cooldown reduction. There's not too much magical power on the side of Zachsy.
That's right. The not getting too much on the Rod of Tahuti passive would he be if he doesn't have that much other magical power in his kit. It does increase it by a percentage based on how much you have right now. But looking to start up the Portal Demon, our Strictly Business not just start it up, but actually take it down. They have that objective in their favor, and Obey Alliance unable to contest.
Not able to really find the correct steal there. They did have that one steal onto Gold Fury from Dwurst between that Roar and Hog combination, but he wasn't in position this time for the Portal Demon, and Obey Alliance still looking a little bit troublesome here as the game progresses.
Xing able to get away from Fatal Ghost and Jarman, despite the fact that things were looking sketchy for the moment. Now they're looking to push down this tier 1 tower on the solo lane side, as Dwurst is the only one standing around to defend, trying to get pbnjellly to commit too bad, and they do commit, get Zachsy to get in. He gets plucked in, and now it's Fatal Ghost jumping in. The ultimate from Kaeydan comes down, but the beads and the Angus were enough and ran out just in time, though, for the Lurking in the Waters to clean up Zachsy.
Blown up from the waters as Jarman confirms that kill. Delta Marine gets stunned, plugged back in, rooted in place. Aegis was used, but it doesn't matter. That's 2 dead on the side of Obey. The rest of SB is going to try to chase down Dwurst, and the ultimate connects from Vulcan. Dwurst needs to run away. As Kaeydan, though, he wants to chase this down.
This is the team fight that we've been looking for Strictly Business for all game long. Now they finally have their chance to try and push down now that it's 5v3 versus Obey Alliance. Tier 2 tower in the solo lane has fallen down, and the Fire Giant is the next one in the sights of Fatal Ghost.
This is so good for SB, taking out the world defending champions. Obey Alliance are just not looking the way they used to here. Whether or not it was a change of Zachsy or not, they're just not doing their homework here. Dwurst not able to steal this one.
Fire Giant does go the way of Strictly Business, and Dwurst is going to have to turn tail, but where can he go with Ryan Jarman on the back end of the team fight? Sprint comes out, the hammer's thrown. Looks like Dwurst recognizes that it's all over. All he can do is try and delay them. oBoronic gets the credit. He's sitting at 3-0-9. Strictly Business up 14-5, and they're ready to start taking down some objectives.
It's all about the composition from Strictly Business. The control is just almost unreal if you think about it. They cannot penetrate the backline onto oBoronic or Fatal Ghost, and Obey Alliance have just been outdrafted and outplayed this entire set.
It really feels like the idea from Obey Alliance were to be too tanky and too able to sustain for Strictly Business to be able to fight in it. So what did Strictly Business finally do? They just hard commit to the objective. Instead of letting it being a long, drawn-out fight that favors Obey, they just hard commit.
That's the counter towards the Hell or any other sustained god. It's just the durability versus the oomph that you can provide in these team fights, and SB are certainly bringing it here. Deathbringer finished, Poison Star trying to wrap up that Wind Demon, but honestly, the way SB has been playing and Fatal Ghost has been playing, they could probably end this game before that item is finished.
Strictly Business has an 8,000 gold lead, but there's still plenty of gold on the map. Tier 2 towers still standing in duo and in the middle lane. Tier 1 being cleaned up by Strictly Business now. A bit of a split push as Fatal Ghost is able to take this all on his own, because it looks like the call from Obey Alliance would be to try and defend on this mid lane Phoenix. They know they can't afford to fight into this Tier 2.
That's true. They are going to back off, trying to get some damage from a distance, but the flip side, it's going to be some meatballs, hammers, and walls thrown the way of Obey Alliance. Tier 2 does take a spill here. Ryan Jarman going to sustain with that sickening strike, and the rest of SB, they can easily start targeting down some of these Phoenixes.
Now Strictly Business, they have all 3 Phoenixes exposed. They can move in whenever they so choose. Looks like the call is to go back, take some of the farm from the jungle of Obey Alliance, and then move up these minion waves so they can start pressuring in multiple lanes at once.
It's the ability to multitask just separates the good from the great, and that's exactly what SB is doing here, just making so much improvement between the summer split to now the most important fall split heading into Worlds.
Do you see how far forward Ryan Jarman was, that his team just trying to see if he can bait out some cooldowns? They finally have their minion wave, and Ryan Jarman dashes in. The pluck doesn't hit, but now he's lurking in the waters beneath Delta Marine and Zachsy, trying to get him in the backline, forcing them away so that Fatal Ghost can rain the damage in on the Phoenix. The Dharmic Pillars come out for pbnjellly, but pbnjellly's already gone. Delta Marine cleans up Fatal Ghost, and the Phoenix still putting in damage onto Ryan Jarman.
And we're seeing the double knockup from Myflin. Kaeydan, though, landing in the backline, trying to take out Delta Marine. Stun is not on the mark. oBoronic taking a spill in the backline as Dwurst takes him out. It's a 3-for-1 here. So far, so good. Obey Alliance, they're holding on to all their Phoenixes.
Yeah, the defense for Obey Alliance has been really strong so far. 4-for-1 in their favor. The pluck that started everything from Ryan Jarman was off the mark. He had to go straight into the lurking in the waters, and there just wasn't enough follow-up from that initiation.
Just too separated was SB, committing that far past the Phoenix, leaving your backline completely exposed. Fatal Ghost fell too quickly. He didn't have time to use that Aegis, didn't have time for oBoronic to use his bees either, and still having that 6th slot for your Vulcan in the late game means that SB can still dish out some damage. I'm expecting them to kind of recalculate and rethink their strategy executing under these Phoenixes.
And that was against a full Fire Giant team that Obey Alliance made that defense. Matt Koiz still has his around his ankles as Obey Alliance group up around that Gold Fury, and they do successfully take it down. Now it's Obey who are the ones looking to make this push. They go down to get the Tier 1. There's so many towers still up on the map for Strictly Business, so they've got a harder path to the Titan.
It'll take a little bit of time to get the Phoenixes out of SB, but so far a good steady climb back into this game for Obey Alliance, not counting out the world defending champions in the second game quite yet.
Fatal Ghost is starting up this Portal Demon. Only pbnjellly is around to try and contest it, trying to get him to commit, but he doesn't. So Fatal Ghost gets to start it back up. He knows he has Ryan Jarman rotating into the back of the fight with him, trying to get pbnjellly or Dwurst to overstep. Dwurst does blink in and not able to get anything out of it. Ryan Jarman actually plucks him back towards his teammates.
Good bait here from SB. They didn't want to force anything too much there. Easily Fatal Ghost could have kept forcing the aggro onto the portal demon. Instead, baiting out any sort of relic or ultimate that he could. He got the blink from Dwurst. Now that means oBoronic and Fatal Ghost don't have to worry about that blink ulti combination.
And they do force the hand of Obey Alliance to go in. The pluck does come out from Ryan Jarman. And the ultimate over the top from oBoronic hits 3 members. Delta Marine and pbnjellly very low. Fatal Ghost going into the backline with the help of Ryan Jarman. The Ohm is out, but you can't silence my auto attacks. He's ripping through the team fight. 3 already dead. Fatal Ghost out in front, and they're going to keep pushing.
Almost a 3-for-1 with that one Vulcan ultimate, doing 4 digits to 3 different targets there. What a shot from oBoronic there, baiting members of Obey Alliance into that circle. Very easy confirmed damage, and with this 5-on-2, strictly business, they don't care about this Fire Giant. They care about this Phoenixes, and if they could get another pick, most certainly this Titan.
It came from the patience from Fatal Ghost. He forced the hand of Obey Alliance to group up around that portal demon, and oBoronic was not afraid to pull the trigger. He hasn't been all game, and he threw it over the top, and that's what set up Fatal Ghost to go through the team fight. Phoenix in right side falls. Phoenixes are moving into the Titan room, and only Zachsy is around to try and slow this down. Dwurst already in a lot of trouble.
I like this play, though, out of Dwurst, though. He took his own portal, trying to interrupt the flow from SB, not allowing anyone to back, keeping members low from SB, just to make sure that this Fire Giant would be more tricky to complete.
Fire Giant already below half health. We've seen Dwurst make 1 steal this game. Can he make a second? He's here. He's local. He goes in, but he's unable. The Fire Giant goes down to oBoronic, and Dwurst is in a bad spot here now. He is still clinging to life. Still hanging around.
He's juking, he's weaving, but he's gonna fall. 1v3 the rest. Kaeydan, though, gonna force out the Aegis from Zachsy, keeping in place. 1 in-hand, smack down to the ground. 3rd dead member from Obey Alliance. Vulcan ultimate, just for good measure. Only 3 members standing strong for Obey Alliance.
Zachsy not being here is a big deal for Obey Alliance. Hell, such a big part of what makes their sustained defense work. Without Hell for 50 more seconds, or just about, Strictly Business can now win the poke war thanks to that Fire Giant regen. The minion wave is here. Koiz is here, and they're ready to go in. Delta Marine already very low. Myflin very low on the left side as well. Fatal Ghost is free to hammer in the auto attacks, and the Phoenix is under duress.
Terra's Blessing being used just for good measure, securing the second Phoenix of the game. SB now transitioning over to the left-hand side. Everyone from Obey Alliance has backed off to the fountain to get that very important health. Phoenix already down to half health. 3rd one goes down.
It's so difficult to win once all 3 Phoenixes are being taken, and that's the situation Obey Alliance find themselves in now. Strictly Business able to back up and regroup as the fire minions pour into the base of Obey. They're just going to have to try and keep their Titan alive as Strictly Business can strip the jungle, go back and heal up for their final push.
It's looking a little dicey for Obey Alliance. They lost all 3 Phoenixes, down 12,000 gold, but they're at that 76,000 gold marker where some of their players are already full build, so that gold disparity is more about your 500 gold potions, your sentry wards, and your upgraded relics.
The real big difference between these teams right now is just going to be that Fire Giant buff that Strictly Business have on 4 members, and we've seen Obey Alliance defend against the Fire Giant once before, so this game certainly isn't over until it's over, but Strictly Business feel firmly in the driver's seat. Koiz had the Magai's Blessing. You're going to have a hard time locking him down.
Whenever you have a composition like SB do, whenever you're in this late game, you have the control. We saw the 1 Terra stun from Koiz under that middle Phoenix onto Delta Marine, and he was already almost out of that team fight completely off of 1 follow-up from oBoronic. 1 meatball, 1 backfire, that's all is needed.
Dwurst was very far forward here, getting separated by Kaeydan and the rest of his team. The wall was good to separate him, as was the pluck to pull him back, but now he's just trying to lead the team of Strictly Business on a merry goose chase, and lead them he does. Fatal Ghost finally gets credit for it, and now they'll be able to siege in a 5v4.
Dwurst, I don't know what he was doing there. He was definitely not allowed to be there past your Phoenixes. Nobody should be past their Phoenixes here on the side of Obey Alliance. Delta Marine gonna juke out the ultimate from Kaeydan, pops the red potion, but still the Aegis buying him some time for the moment there. He needs to dash away, but he's just gonna eat some hammer shots instead.
The wall from Kaeydan was perfect to separate Delta Marine from getting back to the safety of his Titan room. Instead, Kaeydan gets credit for a kill. Now pbnjellly's very low. The wall from Kaeydan once again very good to clean up pbnjellly. Fatal Ghost has been reigning in the damage. The Titan is already fallen. Strictly Business gets the 2-0 against Obey Alliance.
What a clean performance from Strictly Business. We saw the European side where Rival fell, and they look like the amateur team, but honestly, this world defending champion team as well is following the same boat as Rival from the European side. They didn't look like the world defending champions whatsoever.
Strictly Business looked good as a team. If earlier in the day we saw some excellent individual play on the Wheelix, then just now we saw excellent team play from Strictly Business. They were all over the map, making the hard calls on the objective, and they might have even executed their strategy better than we saw from Obey.
Especially with the Guardian selection here for Ryan Jarman there. The Sobek play, the rotation, the impact that he made was just so clear. Not only was it good here just for the anti-healing of the Hell, but slowing her down with the ultimate, being able to consistently find the plucks there, even against the cleanse. There were just too many things that Zachsy had to focus on as a Hell to cleanse.
We said it from the picks and ban phase. Control, control, control the way of Strictly Business. Ryan Jarman, a big part of what made it work. The tail whip, the pluck, just displacing the members of Obey Alliance. There wasn't a way for them to fight into it. Even, as you said, with the cleanse from Hell, she can only use it once every few seconds, and it just wasn't enough to keep up with what Strictly Business brought.
The late game potential from SB was just too strong for Obey Alliance to really handle, and as a result, they find the 2-0 clean victory here, and they are actually doing very well for themselves thus far after this Week 3 performance, already defeating Sword Gaming, defeating Elevate in Week number 2, and now defeating Obey.
And making Obey Alliance look beatable, making them look human is what Strictly Business have done here in this set. Strictly Business, as you said, are going to be in a real good spot moving forward now, and I'd be afraid to go up against them the way they're playing, with the way they're making those calls on the objective.
You know, this is the fall split. This is the most important split. You could really tell which teams have come prepared and which ones are a little slacking.
Well, we are prepared to bring you one more set here today. We got 5 of them for you thanks to the EU, so just hold on for us one moment, a brief pause. We'll be right back.
Scares you. Get used to what you see and know that I'm